This is Harsh Rules. I'm Ben Harsh, and today we're going to learn to play Memoir 44, the Mediterranean Theater. Memoir 44, the Mediterranean Theater, is an expansion for the Memoir 44 base game. Each Memoir 44 expansion showcases a particular nationality involved in World War II. The Mediterranean Theater introduces the Commonwealth or British units. This expansion also gives rules for the Italian Royal Army. This expansion covers the Mediterranean theater but focuses mostly on the North Africa campaign. Essentially, this is desert warfare, and the tiles reflect this with ergs, wadis, dunes, and oases. A quick note: to get full enjoyment out of the Mediterranean theater, you would also want to purchase the Winter Desert Board map. This map comes with the desert on one side, and you flip it over and there's a winterscape on the other. The winter side can be used for the Eastern Front expansion as well as the Winter Wars expansion. Or you can just be cheap and use the board that came with the base game, but your scenario is going to look like this. And obviously this isn't very aesthetically pleasing. With the appropriate board, though, it looks much better. This board retails for about $25, and I've seen it up to $40 or even more. So I get it, it's a bit pricey for people, but just be warned, without it, your game is gonna look like crap. These are the other expansions for Memoir 44 laid out on the timeline of World War II. As you can see, the game is not just relegated to 1944, it does cover all of World War II. Besides new units and tiles, the Mediterranean Theater comes with 8 new missions to play through. I've laid them out here on the timeline so you can see when they occur, and there's a few missions that actually link together to form a mini campaign of sorts. You can find even more missions for the Mediterranean Theater to download on your own over at the Days of Wonder website, or you can even create your own missions. Next, let's set up Mission 1, and I'll show you what the Mediterranean Theater looks like. So, get your bits together, people. It's time to set up the game. And now, Mission 1. Hellfire Pass, June 15th to the 17th, 1941. 2 miles inland on the Egyptian-Libyan border, Hellfire Pass carves a natural route through the 600-foot-high escarpment that extends southeast towards Sollum. In World War II, whoever controlled the pass held the main westward access into Libya and the key to any relief of the besieged garrison at Tobruk. The Germans and Italians are very well aware of this. German and Italian forces are securely dug in along the ridgeline surrounding the pass. Approaches to their dug-in position are barricaded by wire. An extensive minefield blocks all entryway to the pass. Regardless, British forces must make their way through Hellfire Pass. The Italian army has 3 units in these positions. The Germans have 2 units on either side of the pass, armed with anti-tank weapons. The remainder of the German infantry forces have taken their position along the east ridgeline. Armor units guard the exits to Hellfire Pass, along with 2 groups of artillery. British infantry have made their way to the mouth of the pass. They are supported by 5 divisions of elite armor units. The stage is set, the battle lines are drawn, and you are in command. The rest is history. And for the final touches of setup, the British side receives 4 command cards, the Axis side receives 6 command cards. Each side's victory conditions require 6 medals, and there are a number of special rules in effect. North African Desert rules, exit rules, Italian Royal Army and British Commonwealth rules, special weapon assets, allied tanks are all considered elite. Now that this is all set up and you can see what it looks like, let's slow down and we'll go through some of these special rules and conditions so that you understand how they work. Like I said earlier, this expansion showcases the British Commonwealth. Each of these major nationalities have a special attribute. The British have the stiff upper lip capability. When a unit is reduced to a single figure and survives close assault, they can use this ability. Essentially, this gives them the ability to immediately battle back against the enemy with 1 dice. The only time this ability is prohibited is during the play of an ambush card. Each nationality also has specialists that are identified by these badges. The specifics of whether or not you can use these abilities with these badges will be outlined in the individual mission. Now, while some badges are just there for historical flavor, there are other badges that grant additional abilities. In this expansion, the British Royal Engineers have 2 additional special abilities. Engineers have an expertise ability. This allows them to ignore terrain battle dice restrictions in close combat. They can also, when in a battle, remove obstacles like mines, wire, and roadblocks. Some scenarios will identify the Special Air Service and the British Special Forces as elite units. If these rules are in effect in the scenario you're playing, then they may be eligible for elite infantry and elite armor rules. These rules align with the elite infantry and elite armor rules in the base game. Elite infantry may move 2 hexes and battle, and elite armor is recognized by having 4 figures rather than 3. Remember, these rules will be outlined in the specific scenario you're playing and may not be eligible in every mission. The Italian nationality is represented by the Italian Royal Army. Italian Royal Army units have 2 special abilities. They exhibit artillery bravery, which allows Italian Royal Army artillery units to ignore 1 retreat flag. They also have a motorized divisions capability that when they retreat, they can retreat up to 3 hexes at their discretion. The German Army also has a new badge in this expansion. The Italians have their own elite unit in the form of Italian Special Forces. Check the individual mission specs to see if any of these elite rules apply to your particular mission. Much like the British, they also have their own German engineer. The abilities of the German engineer mimic those exactly of the British engineer. The German engineer can use their expertise to ignore terrain battle dice restrictions in close combat and remove obstacles, but this requires them to be in battle. This expansion has special weapon assets. In this particular expansion, it's the anti-tank weapon. An infantry unit with an anti-tank weapon has a choice. They can move 1 to 2 hexes, but they can't battle. Or they can remain stationary, and if there's an enemy target within 3 hexes, they can use the anti-tank weapon. To use the anti-tank weapon, line of sight is required. The main benefit of the anti-tank weapon is that you can also score a hit on a star. The Memoir 44 Mediterranean Theater also introduces North African Desert rules. North African Desert rules pertain to armor overrun. In this modified armor overrun, the unit may move into a vacated hex and then may move 1 additional hex. It may then also battle again. So for example, let's say we have a unit of 2 British armor versus a German unit with 4 infantry figures. Both sides are adjacent to each other, so they're technically in close combat. The German side rolls and they get a flag, which means they need to retreat 1 hex. Now the British player has the option of initiating an armor overrun, and they choose to do so. Because North African desert rules are in effect, they also get to move 1 additional hex. And they get to battle again. Some scenarios require exit markers to earn medals. Exit markers come in 2 types. The first is a single vertical marker. This means that the exit is only available in that particular hex. The second type is when exit markers are shown in pairs horizontally. These form goalposts and show you the range of hexes that are eligible for exit. Minefields are one of the new terrain obstacles in the Mediterranean Theater expansion. Each minefield marker is double-sided. One side shows the minefield warning and the other side has a number. When the unit moves into a minefield, the marker is flipped over and the number corresponds to the number of dice that are rolled to see the damage. If the number is a 0, then it's just a decoy and no dice are rolled and no damage is taken. Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 are live mines. Once the minefield results are revealed, then they stay in play through the entire game. Minefields are typically set up by one side, and they do not affect that side. However, every time a unit steps onto a minefield that is revealed, those number of dice are rolled every time. Many of the terrain hexes in the Mediterranean theater are merely the desert warfare versions of the regular terrain hexes. For example, palm forests are just the desert variety of regular forests. Dunes are really just hills, and so on. However, there are a couple of terrains that are very unique and have special rules. The first is the oasis, and if oasis recovery rules are in effect, there are special rules. If an infantry unit occupies an oasis and there's no adjacent enemy units, then that infantry unit may recover lost figures. Basically, that player will look at the number of command cards they have and roll the equivalent amount of dice. For every star they roll, they recover 1 infantry figure. Of course, you can only add as many lost figures as it takes to bring your infantry unit back to full strength. Another interesting terrain is the wadi. The wadi is a terrain that can only be entered or left through 2 sides of the hex. I've also created a new terrain chart for the Mediterranean theater that shows all the new terrain hexes and the associated values. For line of sight, upon entry, cover bonus, battle out penalties, and the air check is also included. And that wraps up this episode of Harsh Rules. I'm Ben Harsh. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.